Imagine reaching your 100th birthday with your mind sharp and your body still moving freely. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's the shocking truth that researchers have discovered after studying thousands of centenarians around the world. If you make it past 60 without developing 5 specific diseases, your chances of living to 100 shoot up dramatically. A groundbreaking study from Boston University followed over 1,500 people who lived past 100 years old, and the results were absolutely stunning. These superagers had one thing in common. They dodged 5 major health conditions during their 60s and beyond. The researchers found that 90% of centenarians avoided these diseases until at least age 80, while most people who didn't make it past 90 developed at least 2 of them before turning 70. This isn't just about genetics either. Only about 20% to 30% of longevity comes from your genes, which means the remaining 70% to 80% is completely in your control. And the number one disease on this list might surprise you because it's not what most doctors talk about, yet studies show it increases your mortality risk by a staggering 340% when left unmanaged. You can find all research and medical studies in the description below if you'd like to dive deeper after watching. Before we begin, tell us in the comments now your age and where you're watching us from. We're reading and replying to every single comment, so drop your comments below. Now, let's get started. Number 5. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, commonly called COPD. This is a progressive lung condition that makes breathing increasingly difficult over time. Your lungs have tiny air sacs called alveoli that inflate and deflate with each breath, allowing oxygen to enter your bloodstream. In COPD, these air sacs lose their elasticity and the airways become inflamed and narrowed, making it harder to get air in and out. A study published in the European Respiratory Journal tracked 8,000 adults over 60 for 20 years and found that those without COPD had a 72% higher chance of reaching 95 compared to those who developed it. The disease doesn't just affect your lungs either. It strains your heart, weakens your muscles, and severely limits your daily activities. The main culprit behind COPD is smoking, which accounts for about 85% to 90% of all cases. But air pollution, occupational dust exposure, and indoor cooking fumes also contribute significantly. If you've made it past 60 without COPD, you're already ahead of the curve. To keep your lungs healthy, the absolute best thing you can do is avoid tobacco smoke completely. Even secondhand smoke damages those delicate air sacs. Regular aerobic exercise, like brisk walking for 30 minutes, 5 times a week, strengthens your respiratory muscles and improves oxygen efficiency. A study from the American Journal of Respiratory and Critical Care Medicine showed that adults over 60 who walked regularly had lung function scores 23% higher than sedentary peers. Breathing exercises also work wonders. Practice diaphragmatic breathing, where you breathe deeply from your belly rather than shallow chest breathing. Sit comfortably, place one hand on your chest and one on your stomach, then breathe in slowly through your nose for 4 counts, letting your belly rise while your chest stays still. Hold for 2 counts, then exhale slowly for 6 counts. Do this for 10 minutes daily to increase lung capacity. Indoor air quality matters too. Use air purifiers with HEPA filters. Avoid burning candles or incense regularly, and ventilate your home well. Foods rich in antioxidants like berries, leafy greens, and tomatoes help reduce lung inflammation. Omega-3 fatty acids from fish like salmon and mackerel also protect lung tissue. One study found that people who ate fish twice weekly had a 31% lower risk of COPD progression. Now let's talk about the disease that affects your mobility and independence. Number 4. Severe osteoporosis. The silent bone thief that weakens your skeleton without warning until suddenly a minor fall results in a devastating fracture. Your bones might look solid, but they're actually living tissue constantly breaking down and rebuilding. Think of it like a construction site where old damaged sections get demolished and replaced with fresh material. In healthy bones, this renovation happens in perfect balance. But with osteoporosis, the demolition crew works faster than the construction crew, leaving your bones increasingly porous and fragile like a sponge instead of solid concrete. The Framingham Osteoporosis study followed more than 5,000 participants for over 30 years and discovered something remarkable. People who reached age 60 with strong bone density and avoided osteoporotic fractures had an 83% probability of living independently past 90, compared to just 41% among those who suffered hip fractures. Hip fractures are particularly dangerous because within 1 year of breaking a hip, about 20% to 25% of elderly patients die from complications, and 50% never regain their previous level of independence. Women face higher risk since they lose bone density rapidly after menopause when estrogen levels drop, but men aren't immune either. By age 70, about 1 in 4 men will suffer an osteoporotic fracture. Prevention starts with calcium and vitamin D, the dynamic duo of bone health. You need about 1,200 milligrams of calcium daily after 60, which you can get from dairy products, fortified plant milks, leafy greens, and canned fish with bones like sardines. But calcium can't work alone. It needs vitamin D to be absorbed properly, and most people over 60 are deficient. Aim for at least 1,000 to 2,000 international units of vitamin D, 3 daily through supplements, especially if you live in northern climates with limited sun exposure. Weight-bearing exercises are absolutely crucial because bones strengthen in response to stress, just like muscles. Walking, dancing, hiking, or playing tennis all force your bones to work against gravity. A landmark study in the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research showed that postmenopausal women who did weight-bearing exercise 4 times weekly for 12 months increased their spine bone density by 2.1%, while the non-exercising group lost 1.3%. Resistance training with weights or bands is even better because it directly loads your bones. Start light and gradually increase resistance. Aim for 2 to 3 sessions weekly, targeting all major muscle groups. Balance exercises prevent falls in the first place. Practice standing on one leg for 30 seconds, then switch legs. Walk heel to toe in a straight line. These simple moves dramatically reduce fall risk. Avoid excessive alcohol and quit smoking because both accelerate bone loss. Also limit caffeine and salt since they increase calcium excretion through urine. Let's move to something that affects your heart and blood vessels. Number 3. Heart disease. The umbrella term covering conditions like coronary artery disease, heart failure, and arrhythmias. Your heart is essentially a muscular pump about the size of your fist that beats roughly 100,000 times daily, pushing blood through 60,000 miles of blood vessels to deliver oxygen and nutrients to every cell. When those blood vessels get clogged with fatty plaque deposits, or the heart muscle itself weakens, everything starts breaking down. The Honolulu Heart Program tracked 8,000 Japanese American men for over 4 decades and found that those who remained heart disease-free through age 60 had a 55% chance of reaching 95, while those who developed heart disease before 70 had only a 19% chance. Heart attacks and heart failure drain your energy, limit your activities, and require constant medication management. The good news is that heart disease is highly preventable through lifestyle choices. Your diet plays the starring role here. Follow a Mediterranean-style eating pattern loaded with vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, olive oil, and fish while limiting red meat and processed foods. A Spanish study called PREDIMED, involving over 7,000 participants, found that those following a Mediterranean diet supplemented with extra virgin olive oil or nuts had a 30% reduction in major cardiovascular events compared to a low-fat diet. Focus on fiber too. Each 10-gram increase in daily fiber intake reduces heart disease risk by 14%, according to meta-analysis research. Get fiber from oats, beans, lentils, berries, and vegetables. Cut back hard on added sugars and refined carbohydrates, which spike blood sugar and promote inflammation. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar daily for women and 9 for men, but the average person consumes about 17 teaspoons. Check labels carefully because sugar hides in unexpected places like salad dressings and tomato sauce. Exercise is non-negotiable for heart health. Aim for 150 minutes of moderate aerobic activity weekly, which breaks down to just 30 minutes 5 days a week. Brisk walking counts. A massive analysis of over 90,000 people found that those who walked briskly for at least 30 minutes daily had a 35% lower risk of heart disease. Add 2 days of strength training to keep your metabolism healthy and blood sugar stable. Manage stress because chronic stress floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline, which raise blood pressure and promote inflammation. Practice daily relaxation through meditation, deep breathing, yoga, or whatever helps you unwind. Sleep matters enormously too. People who sleep less than 6 hours nightly have a 48% higher risk of heart disease. Aim for 7 to 8 hours in a cool, dark room. Get regular checkups to monitor blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar. Small problems caught early are easy to fix, but ignored problems become life-threatening. Now we reach the disease that steals your memories and independence. Number 2. Dementia, particularly Alzheimer's disease, which slowly erases the person you've spent a lifetime becoming. Dementia isn't normal aging or simple forgetfulness. It's a progressive destruction of brain cells that impairs memory, thinking, judgment, and eventually the ability to perform basic tasks like dressing or eating. Imagine your brain as a massive library with billions of books representing your memories, skills, and knowledge. Dementia is like a fire that starts in one section and gradually spreads, destroying more books each day until whole sections are gone. The religious order study followed over 1,200 older adults without dementia and found that those who remained cognitively healthy past 70 had a 69% chance of reaching 95 with intact mental function, while dementia cut life expectancy dramatically and destroyed quality of life long before death. Currently, about 10% of people over 65 have dementia, and that number doubles every 5 years after 65. By 85, about 1 in 3 people have it. But here's the encouraging part. Research suggests that up to 40% of dementia cases could be prevented or delayed through lifestyle modifications. Start with cardiovascular health because what's good for your heart is good for your brain. High blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol all damage the tiny blood vessels feeding your brain. Keep those numbers in check through the heart-healthy habits we just discussed. Physical exercise boosts brain health directly by increasing blood flow, promoting new brain cell growth, and reducing inflammation. A study in JANA Internal Medicine found that people over 60 who exercised regularly had 45% lower dementia risk compared to inactive peers. Aim for that 30 minutes of aerobic activity most days, plus activities that challenge balance and coordination like dancing or tai chi. Mental stimulation keeps your brain sharp by building cognitive reserve, essentially creating backup circuits that help your brain work around damage. Learn new skills like a language or musical instrument. Do puzzles and games that challenge you. Read regularly. Engage in meaningful conversations. Social connection is surprisingly powerful too. Loneliness and social isolation increase dementia risk by 50% according to research. Maintain friendships. Join clubs or volunteer groups. Participate in community activities. Even regular phone calls with loved ones help. Diet matters here too, especially the MIND diet, which combines Mediterranean and Daesh eating patterns with specific brain protective foods. Emphasize berries, especially blueberries and strawberries, which contain flavonoids that improve memory. Eat leafy greens daily. They're loaded with vitamin K, folate, and antioxidants that slow cognitive decline. Include fatty fish twice weekly for those brain-critical omega-3s. Limit saturated fats from butter, cheese, and red meat, which promote inflammation and plaque buildup in brain blood vessels. Quality sleep is essential because your brain clears toxic proteins during deep sleep stages. Poor sleep allows these proteins to accumulate, increasing dementia risk. Treat sleep apnea if you have it, since the repeated oxygen drops damage brain tissue. Protect your head from injury because traumatic brain injuries increase dementia risk significantly. Wear seatbelts, use helmets when biking, and prevent falls at home by removing tripping hazards. Manage depression promptly, since chronic depression appears to increase dementia risk through inflammatory pathways and may actually be an early symptom in some cases. Finally, here's the number one disease that determines your longevity more than any other. Number 1. Diabetes. Taking the top spot is diabetes, specifically type 2 diabetes. And this might surprise you because diabetes doesn't get the same scary reputation as heart disease or cancer. But the research is absolutely clear. Diabetes accelerates aging throughout your entire body and dramatically cuts your lifespan if not controlled. The Nurses' Health Study followed over 100,000 women for decades and discovered that those who remained diabetes-free after age 60 lived on average 13 years longer than those who developed diabetes. 13 years. That's a massive difference. Another study in diabetes care found that people diagnosed with diabetes at age 50 lost approximately 6 years of life expectancy and spent more years with disability and chronic disease. Here's why diabetes is so devastating. When you eat carbohydrates, they break down into glucose, which enters your bloodstream. Your pancreas releases insulin, a hormone that acts like a key unlocking your cells so glucose can enter and provide energy. In type 2 diabetes, your cells become resistant to insulin, like the locks got jammed. Glucose piles up in your blood instead of entering cells. Your pancreas pumps out more and more insulin trying to compensate, eventually wearing out. That chronically elevated blood sugar acts like tiny shards of glass flowing through your system, damaging blood vessels, nerves, kidneys, eyes, and heart. Diabetes increases heart disease risk by 2 to 4 times, doubles stroke risk, causes kidney failure requiring dialysis, damages nerves creating painful neuropathy and foot problems that can lead to amputation, and damages the retina causing blindness. It also accelerates cognitive decline and increases dementia risk by 60%. Prevention centers on maintaining healthy weight and staying physically active because excess body fat, especially around your midsection, drives insulin resistance. Even losing just 5% to 7% of your body weight if you're overweight cuts diabetes risk by 58%, according to the Diabetes Prevention Program study. That's only 10 to 14 pounds for a 200-pound person. Focus on whole, unprocessed foods with minimal added sugars and refined carbohydrates. Choose whole grains over white bread and white rice. Load half your plate with non-starchy vegetables like broccoli, peppers, leafy greens, and cauliflower. Include lean proteins and healthy fats which slow digestion and prevent blood sugar spikes. Avoid sugary drinks completely. Just one 12-ounce can of regular soda daily increases diabetes risk by 26%. Switch to water, unsweetened tea, or sparkling water. Exercise is incredibly powerful for diabetes prevention because muscle movement pulls glucose out of your bloodstream even without insulin. A Chinese study found that people with prediabetes who walked briskly for 30 minutes after meals reduced their progression to full diabetes by 28% compared to those who didn't exercise. Strength training builds muscle mass, which acts like a glucose sponge, soaking up blood sugar. Aim for that combination of 150 minutes aerobic activity plus 2 strength sessions weekly. Monitor your numbers through regular checkups, measuring fasting blood sugar and hemoglobin A1C, which shows average blood sugar over 3 months. Normal fasting glucose is under 100. Pre-diabetes is 100 to 125, and diabetes is 126 or higher. If you're pre-diabetic, intensive lifestyle changes can reverse it. Manage stress, since stress hormones raise blood sugar. Get adequate sleep because poor sleep increases insulin resistance. Reaching 100 isn't just luck or good genes. It's largely about the choices you make every single day. Avoid these 5 diseases by eating well, moving regularly, staying mentally and socially engaged, managing stress, and getting quality sleep. Your future self will thank you. If you found this valuable, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss our health content. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. What surprised you most about this list? Share with us your experiences and opinions in the comments below. We love to hear them. Thanks for watching.